When we last left our adventurers, they had just finished their meeting with Leland Sabat. With no more reason to hang around the inn, and Platinum burning a hole in all their pockets, the group decides to head to the academy to procure the scrying scrolls needed to find the necromancer. As well, Torin wants to make a few magic item deals. Security has been heightened around the entrance of the academy, with a phalanx member at both the bottom and top of the only entrance. The guard at the top asks everyone for their names, so Cal introduces everyone, though he himself uses a fake name, Dranon. Additionally, everyone is issued small steel sheets with runes on them, and told they can only go to the forge and first floor of the library. The group makes their way to the main path of the academy. In the distance, they can see the forge, a rather boxy-looking building compared to the others, and covered in warding runes. The library, on the other hand, is in the main tower, which stretches even further into the sky than the other buildings. Splitting up, Tor and Alexandra head off to the forge, while Cal, Teleri, and Ilariel make their way to the library. In the forge, the duo sees scores of individual workbenches where apprentices are making magical items. There are even a few crag races, dwarves and Imascari, among them. Torin approaches the nearest apprentice, who is dipping an axe handle into a bowl of lava. Apparently he is trying to create a lava axe. Torin asks if he knows anyone interested in purchasing his bracers of opportunity, and as luck would have it, the apprentice is always interested in new magical items, which he then uses to impress girls. Torin is also looking to pick up a Cloak of Resistance and a Chrono Charm of this Celestial Wanderer, which the apprentice says he can provide for him. After haggling over it for a while, Torin agrees to 350 gold, plus his bracers for the two items. The apprentice, Tangirth, will meet him at the inn in a few days. As soon as the others enter the library, Ilariel is overcome with the sight of books from floor to ceiling and wall to wall, and wanders off to inspect them. Cal and Teleri, meanwhile, head to the front desk, where a young half-orc woman is making lights while three small brown dragons watch. Cal lets her know what they are after, and she tells them to follow Malchior, evidently one of the dragons whose voice can now be heard in both Cal's and Teleri's heads. Malchior leads them through the open study areas to a very large stack of books on a desk. Coming around the stack, the pair sees a young apprentice being berated by an older magus who seems very familiar to Cal. Malchior announces them to the magus and flies off. The older wizard turns, angry at being disturbed, and comes face to face with his former student. The magus is in fact Alphonse Herbert, Cal's former teacher when he was studying at the academy, a time neither of them looks back on fondly. Regretting this already, Cal asks Herbert if there's anyone else who can get them the scrolls. Herbert refuses to bother anyone else with this unless he knows what it is for. Teleri explains about the necromancer and why she wants to track her down. Herbert says he will help if we settle a bar bet for him. It seems that something crashed down from the sky in the west recently, and he wants us to go find out if it was a meteor or not. Cal points out that this is a fool's errand, and Herbert backs off on that offer. Instead, he asks Teleri, whom he sees as someone who would keep her word, if she would be willing to do him some favor in the future, in return for his assistance. Teleri agrees, and Herbert says he will send an apprentice to the inn with what they need. With their business concluded, the group heads back to the Coleridge Crest. The streets are abuzz with activity as they thread their way back. The ships that came in yesterday were the first since the middle of the war, and the town is now packed with sailors and travelers, and there is constant chatter about the news that they have. By far the most talked about news is out of Satumari. The Ivory Throne has set up 4 new priestly orders. That would be news enough, but these are also Templar orders, made up of 50 knights each, mostly nobles, who say that they are dedicated to restoring order to Tamir. The inn is noisy over dinner, as Hrod has hired one of the many bards that came in the ships to entertain for the evening. Corinia, a Larosi elf, tells stories from the west of orcs and men, accompanying herself on the mandolin. Our adventurers, however, are caught up in their own conversations, as Cal tells them about his time as Herbert's student, and Ilariel tells them about Marathra. William arrives as Ilariel is speaking. Evidently we are not that difficult to find. He tells us that Marathra was forced to leave Satomari by Ilariel's father for her own protection. Marathra had been rather outspoken about the new Templar orders, and they did not take it well. William was sent along as her bodyguard, though Marathra got caught up in the idea of him as a porter. It was easier to just go along with it. William himself was forced to leave his home for his own protection, much like Marathra. He is from the Samari city-states, where it is common for the powerful to assassinate one another. His father sent him away so he couldn't be used against him. Ilariel notices that William is carrying a sword now, and asks him about it. It seems that William wants to be a knight, and seems interested in the adventures that we have had. We share a few stories, such as the near drowning where Cal, Ilariel, and Alexandra have met, and the encounters with the army and the undead. He seems impressed, though somewhat concerned that we keep snapping at each other. Before William leaves, Cal asks if he can try to keep Maratha occupied for a few days in order to avoid running into her again. He recommends that William take her to the academy and introduce her to Herbert. William says he will try, but wild horses couldn't hold back Maratha if she decides she wants to see Alariel again. Cal heads to bed for the evening, and Torrin goes back to the monastery. The ladies decide to go out for a walk. The streets are busy with all the sailors in town, and haggard-looking guards can be seen all over the place, breaking up fights and attempting to keep order. They see one guard dragging a man out of a tavern who had clearly taken several stab wounds. The guard is attempting to patch him up, but is not having much luck. Teleri rushes over and stabilizes the man. The guard is surprised, but very grateful. The stab man is apparently the mayor, who had his head filled with tales of leaders going incognito among their people to hear what they say about them by all the newly arrived bards. Alariel heals him so that the guard will have an easier time getting the mayor home. When he wakes up, it is clear that the mayor is drunk. Mostly because he asked the guard, named Sam, if they are blue. Since he has a speech to give in the morning, on grain, evidently, the mayor allows Sam to escort him home. The ladies soon head back to the inn as well. In the morning, Alariel identifies the mace taken from the ogre as the Flame of Yavimaya. Yavimaya was a female ogre chieftain in the Second War with a nasty reputation, who liked to eat the hearts of her victims. The mace, which was made in her honor, is activated when the wielder says her battle cry. It is an ogre, but translates roughly to Hoorah! Teleri goes out to see if she can find any news from the countryside. There was a lot of talk about the object that fell from the sky, as many of the residents heard it as it came down. There is also talk from the north that the warlord of Ban Uldud Fortress died in his sleep, though there isn't agreement as to how. This is fairly big news, as the commanders of this last bastion between Isard and the Crag, which has never fallen, do not assassinate one another as a general rule. Usually they appoint successors to carry on after them, but circumstances are raising a few eyebrows here. Teleri also meets up with a bard from the previous night, Corinia, who has a few stories from further afield. She met with 2 Terre Soleil scouts who were infected with something and died shortly after telling her about a town to the northeast called Travia, which was swallowed up in shadow. She's also heard of a shrine of Gulnur in the south, where the shrine guardian has begun to slay the worshippers. Meanwhile, back at the inn, Cal, Alariel, and Alexandra are waiting at the bar for Teleri and Torrin to get back. 4 people, a human, an ogre, and 2 hobgoblins come in. The human walks up to Hrod at the bar, while the rest take a seat at a nearby table. Alariel overhears the human asking if Hrod has reconsidered their offer, saying it would be a shame if anything happened to Hrod's family, or anyone close to him. Like the little stable boy, Billy. Hrod tells them to get the hell out of his inn. Alariel wants to talk to Hrod about it and help him out. Cal isn't really interested, but she managed to convince him that they should look into it, since all their associates know to meet them here. It turns out that these were thugs from the Bronze Goblet, a known Kamanatong hangout. They had been hassling Hrod for 2 months to accept their protection, like the other inns in the area have, but he has been refusing. We agree to go to check it out once Teleri and Torrin get back. Just then, Cal feels someone try and cast a spell on him, and it is clear that it's not coming from anyone within the common room. It happens again, and Cal tells Alariel and Alexandra to follow him outside to see if it's still happening out there, or if they can spot anyone. Cal feels the spell attempt once more when they get outside, but it seems to stop then. They can't see anything, so Cal simply shrugs and heads back inside without saying anything. Alariel and Alexandra sense that something is wrong. Cal doesn't seem to be acting like himself. There were no sarcastic comments or disparagements as he went inside, and he is nowhere near paranoid enough about someone casting a spell on him. Alexandra decides to test him. When she goes back to the bar, she tells Cal that she is a much better leader and the single most effective person in the group. Cal tells her that she can believe whatever she wants as long as it shuts her up, and then he goes to his room. Alexandra and Alariel are even more concerned now, and while Alariel goes to find Teleri, Alexandra guards the door to Cal's room. Once Teleri is located, the 3 of them demand Cal let them in. He tells them to go away, so they decide to just burst through the door. Meanwhile, a few minutes earlier and a few 100 feet higher, Cal finds himself in a pitch-black room. When he mutters that he did not prepare light today, another voice says that he has it covered. A blue flame appears, illuminating the room and revealing the white walls, bearing no doors or windows. Cal can see a hooded figure in the blue and white of the phalanx. Looking at his own hands, Cal can see that they have been altered in some way, which the figure claims is just a simple illusion. The phalanx member, who says he is called Jack, knows exactly who Cal is and who he works with. He says he needs a little extra legal help with something in exchange for some leniency regarding Cal's actions within Izard. Jack says that Cal should keep doing what he is doing, and that he will contact him later, though in a less abrupt manner. Jack takes Cal back to his room via Dimension Door, where Cal can see himself and hear the ladies warning they will break down the door. Jack and the doppelganger port away just before the door crashes open. When they enter, the ladies can see some guy standing there in Cal's room and demand to know who he is. Cal, realizing that Jack did not dispel the illusion which altered his form, tries to convince them that he is the real Cal. Alexander tries the same tactic as before, and this time Cal's reaction is enough to convince her and Ilariel, though Teleri remains unconvinced. Cal has Ilariel cast Detect Magic on him to show that there is an illusion, and cast Mage Armor on himself as further proof. Teleri remains skeptical, even after the illusion fades in an hour and Cal is back to looking like himself. Cal is through trying to convince her for now, and so he just tells her to watch him while they head to the Bronze Goblet. Cal has some pent-up aggression that he would like to burn off. And this is where we have left off. So, what will they find at the Bronze Goblet? What sort of help does Jack need? Will the Lava X revolutionize warfare? Find out next time on the Saga of Wounds to Cal's Chest.